Copenhagen, seaside capital of Denmark, a nation consistently ranked amongst the happiest in the world. Yet beyond the picturesque palaces, the city has become the scene of a bloody gang war between bikers and ethnic minorities, especially in inner-city areas. So what's behind the violence on the street? We came to Copenhagen to investigate. First stop, a meeting with leading members of Denmark's Hells Angels motorcycle club, believed to be one of the largest organized crime groups in the country. But others had decided to pay the bikers a visit at the same time. We suddenly found ourselves caught up in the midst of a police raid on the bikers' clubhouse. Nothing suspicious was found, but it was a clear message from the authorities. Violence on the streets will not be tolerated. One of the founders of the Hells Angels is a man called Jørgen Nielsen. He's something of a legend in Denmark. He served 16 years in prison for killing the leader of a rival gang. Once the police had left, without arresting anyone, we sat with Jørgen and his close associates. He denies that the Hells Angels or their support group are involved in a gang war with ethnic minority youth.
They have tried from the beginning to make it look like a racist thing. It started with a killing, and so they feel kind of their power is slipping, because we rather try to keep things down instead of making them flare up.
Support groups linked to the Hells Angels stand accused of violence on behalf of the bikers. But Jørgen dismisses this, blaming the gang war on what he calls the failed integration of ethnic minority youth.
Well, we had that all since the beginning of Hells Angels. Here we have people using our name, that happens. But we try to get those people, of course, when they do that, I don't even know why they want to live in this country. We're just Danish citizens like everybody else, but we're not putting up with the shit. That's the whole integration problem, and that's kind of been thrown into it, I would say, because of a few people who think that they're losing their powers.
The latest street violence was sparked in August 2008 when a young Turkish man was killed by what people believe was a member of the Hells Angels support group. Since then, the conflict has left dozens dead or wounded, some innocent bystanders. At the police headquarters in Copenhagen, KLIVER is the head of the National Investigation Center. For him, the gang war is criminal, not racial in its origin.
Basically, it's the controller over the criminal markets. That means the narcotic markets, that means the trafficking of human beings into prostitution, or the money that they can earn on these criminal activities.
Not everyone agrees that the violence is a turf war over organized crime. Some Danes see race and the so-called integration problem as the chief cause.
The frustration is caused a lot by the establishment. It's not about putting the blame on any entities. It's not about that. Let's be somehow more profound and face the problem. Let's say the establishment has a problem. The media is basically booming the problem, and the street is already in trouble and frustration. Frustration causes revolution, causes crime, causes antagonism.
There are real fears that the gang violence will further fuel existing anti-immigrant sentiment in a country where tightening immigration has become a cornerstone of government policy. But Karen ELLEMANN, Denmark's former Minister of Interior, plays down the issue of race.
Well, in my opinion, the gang wars going on in Copenhagen right now is not a racial question. It has to do with the drug markets.
But these men disagree. JAMAL and Jason, both Palestinians born in refugee camps in Lebanon, have lived in Denmark for most of their lives. They say discrimination in Denmark is an everyday reality, and it pushed them in their teen years to form the Black COBRA. a gang which is thought to be the largest ethnic minority gang in Denmark.
The idea is to stop some guys from thinking that we foreigners doesn't have protection, that they can beat us or do whatever they want without paying back. We found this group to stop that. We stick together, protect each other.
Remember 10 years ago when we started that thing?
It started from my town that time.
Roskilde.
In Roskilde. I can remember that when I was 16 years old here in the station. A policeman, he come and picked me up. I was standing there and I'm waiting for the train. And I met a girl I knew and we stood and talked. And he come up to me and said, hey you, what are you doing here? I said, I'm just waiting for the train. You may not stand here. I said, isn't it the train station? Where would you want me to stay? He said, you don't answer me. Then he take me and he put me in jail in the station. And when he pushed me inside, then I turned around and he hit me in the stomach. And he closed the door. And I didn't get an answer why. I was thrown in jail and I was only 16 years old.
Immigrants account for about 8% of Denmark's 5.5 million people. Of these, there are an estimated 270,000 Muslims in Denmark today. Many arrived in the 1970s from Turkey, Pakistan and Morocco to work. In the 1980s and the 90s, the majority of Muslim arrivals were refugees and asylum seekers from countries like Lebanon, Bosnia, Iraq and Somalia. Following the 9/11 attacks and the Madrid and London bombings, many immigrants feel that Islamophobia and racism is on the rise in Europe.
تجربتي أنا كنت مختلط بالمجتمع الدنماركي وما زلت مختلط. هذا مجتمع عنصري بالفعل عنصري. إذا ما بيعرفك وأنت بدك تحترم نفسك حتى يحترمك.
هذا يعود للإنسان المغترب. كيف أنت فهمك للمجتمع وكيف اختلاطك في الدنماركيين وكيف تفهمك لهم وتفهم يعني ممكن تعيش بسهوله بدون المشاكل اللي بيحكي عليها طلال بس في نسبه قليله جدا اللي بيحكي عنها من العنصريين يعني لا تذكر انا في رايي
Denmark's liberal conservative coalition government came into power in 2001. It is reliant on the support of the far-right Danish People's Party for a parliamentary majority. The Danish People's Party wants to significantly reduce immigration to Denmark. Critics accuse it of racism and xenophobia. The mood in Denmark seems to have taken a turn to the right. Neo-Nazi groups have emerged with new slogans, such as Denmark for Danes and Close the Borders. Many immigrants say they no longer feel welcome in Denmark.
The current Danish government has conservative views on how to assimilate its immigrants or on minorities. The harder the government and the establishment is pushing the immigrants, the resistance will be even harder because nobody wants to give up an identity, his identity, whether it's an African or an Arab or an Asian. With this type of politics, policies towards immigrants, it is actually very counterproductive. When you try to promise people freedom and humane treatment, and basically you do the exact opposite in the name of law, then the law itself becomes an outlaw.
The process of integration, in which immigrants can retain their religious and ethnic differences, has been rejected by many on the far right, who demand total assimilation. Each Friday, many of Copenhagen's Muslim faithful gather in this makeshift communal prayer room to worship. There are no purpose-built mosques with minarets in Denmark, and there's no call to prayer. Controversy surrounds a decision last year by Copenhagen's City Council approving the building of the country's first purpose-built mosque. The Danish People's Party has opposed the plan, saying it risks promoting what it called un-Danish values. It has also pushed for a ban on the various forms of Islamic veils. Danish opposition parties blame the government for creating an atmosphere of alienation and anger.
I think it's noteworthy that Denmark has taken such a different path than both Norway and Sweden. Because we have chosen, in my opinion, a very unsuccessful way of handling xenophobia, Islamophobia, the lack of equality between people of different gender, ethnic orientation, religious beliefs.
Such attitudes of xenophobia and Islamophobia are exacerbating a sense of discrimination and exclusion amongst young people, some of whom are caught up in the current gang war with biker groups on the streets of Copenhagen. But, as Al Jazeera discovers in part 2, the group called Black Cobra is now on the sidelines. New gangs are emerging, made up of younger and more radicalized youth.
It's a really big issue here. What we're asking ourselves is how come that one of the societies which we consider the most safe, with the best educated people in the world, why are we seeing these youngsters shooting each other up in the streets?
We are on a patrol with the police in the suburbs of Copenhagen.
It makes people feel safe to see that the police are patrolling the streets. A lot of troublemakers. If they have a gang here, it's not organized. It's more like a large amount of youngsters having nothing to do.
These social housing projects are home to a high number of minority families. High unemployment, as well as frustration with the police and the media, is common here.
Maybe if they hear it's you guys, they want to come talk to us, I don't know. They're welcome to, no problems. They're right on the other side of this container here, so in a minute there's going to be rocks flying, so you can try to talk to them if you want to, but it's on your own risk.
Off camera, these young men express their unhappiness with the way police treat them. They say it's difficult for them to make a life in Denmark, but they try.
Al Jazeera.
Lots of, they have some media people running around out here, want to film them and make documentaries. And I don't think they like that.
We also learned that the Black Cobra is no longer the main gang. The older boys are out of the picture. A new, more hardened generation has emerged. Later in the evening, we return to the inner city. This is an area called NORREBRO. These streets are well known as some of the toughest in the capital. The police are on the lookout for members of a gang called the Bloggers, named after the area's main square. The gang has been associated with some of the recent violence in Copenhagen's ongoing gang war. The police movements are monitored by people in the shadows. The youth, many of them masked or hooded, resent the police presence. Tension is never far from the surface here. Away from the police, one youth calling himself ABDUL JABAR agreed to speak to us.
You are here, they don't stop. Yeah. If you wasn't here, they will stop. Danish, they are like pigs. They come and shoot on everybody. They don't look if there is children or women, and they only stop types like me, like him.
It's up because they stop us every time.
You're a member of a gang. Is that why they're stopping you?
No, because I'm black.
As we are filming, we are suddenly told there has been a shooting nearby.
Uden for fodgængerfeltet, blev der sagt. Det betyder bag ved fodgængerfeltet. Jeg er journalist. Jamen, jeg er ligeglad med journalist. Der bliver sagt, at uden for afspærring, så skal du være venlig at gå uden for afspærringen.
We watch as one of 3 men arrested is led away. They are all later released without charge. Another confrontation, another flashpoint of tension. One young man we meet at an internet cafe known to be a gathering place for the local youth described the growing mood of hostility. He spoke to us on the condition we did not show his face.
this country, they're very racist. They use any excuse they can get to go against Muslims, every foreigner out there. It's not even fun living here no more because they treat us like us and them. Like we don't even belong here. If you do something wrong here, get the out of the country. That's how they put it.
To add to the suspicion and mistrust, many people we met accused the police of helping the bikers in the gang war.
I think they help them. They give them chips with telephones and say, now they are ready, you can come now.
Ligesom i går aftes var de herinde i 2 timer. Ja, politiet 2-3 timer, ikke? Altså de var her og prøvede efter noget våben og sådan ting. Og så var de smuttet. Så 5 minutter efter, de var smuttet. Så sker der skyderi herinde. Det de siger om i går, det der skyderi i går, de siger, at det er provokation. Det er slet ikke en skid med provokation, for der er nogle personer, som har set de personer komme og skyde. Og det er danskere. Man kan se, at de er sammen jo. Man kan se, at de ringer til dem og siger til dem, nu efter 10, så har vi rådet hele Nørrebro, og så kan I komme og gøre, hvad I vil. Det er sådan nogle ting, altså man kan se, at de er sammen med dem. Nogle af dem, jeg siger ikke, at alle panser er sammen med dem, men de har nogen, som er sammen med dem.
We put these allegations of police discrimination and harassment to the man in charge of investigating the violence.
This is an extremely political question, and I will not answer these kind of questions. The police is only interested in criminal activities. We do not look into people's original backgrounds or whether they are part of a biker group or part of a gang-related group. If you look into results, we have seized more than 300 weapons within the last 6 months. On the streets and on searches, it certainly shows me that this is the right strategy.
But not everyone agrees. Morten Fritsch is a journalist who has followed the story of Denmark's gang war. He believes the police limit their effectiveness by focusing on the violence as a criminal phenomenon only.
I think that police has only recently tried to come on top of this, but it'll take them years, I believe. These immigrant societies are very hard to understand and to get good sources in. Until that happens, nothing will change.
Determined to get tough, the Danish authorities have taken new measures. New gun laws have been passed, and it's now easier to expel gang members of non-Danish descent.
We have to come down hard on the obtuseness and brutality of the gang environment. If you are a criminal with a foreign background, then there is only one way. That is out of Denmark and back to the country where you came from. Brian Nicholson, former Minister of Justice.
Opposition parties have warned that such draconian measures will inflame existing feelings of marginalization amongst ethnic minority youth. They want to see a more moderate approach.
I'm very worried about what goes on at the moment because what we see is that the gangs have possibilities to recruit from the streets. I think it's very important that Denmark sort of reconsiders and uses some of the ways that we know will work, instead of closing our eyes and just talk about how aggressive we can be to the very aggressive gangs.
ALSUBEIHI is a veteran youth worker in the NORREBRO district. He believes the ongoing gang war and ethnic tensions prevent young people having a real chance in life.
You are from this area and your name is Muhammad. That means your chances is very low to get the job. These young people, they are also facing the same problems in the Danish society. And that's what make some of them, becoming criminals. We have to make efforts to encourage them to take an education, encourage them to work, to have good work, encourage them to be active in the society in a positive way.
KHALED and his community feel abandoned and discriminated against by the authorities. We raised their concerns with the former Minister of Interior.
When you travel around in those communities and you get that kind of information, I get very worried because I think that the society has done a lot to it.
I don't think that the Danes as such are racist, but I think that they're afraid of what's going to happen with our society. It's about either you're with us or you're against us. I think the Bush rhetoric have been very sort of contagious also into Danish politics.
Denmark is a traditional ally of the United States. It has supported the war on Afghanistan and Iraq. Yet its political stand has further antagonized many in the ethnic minority community.
which Denmark is also part of this global conflict. It's a stand with Israel in the Middle East, and makes the minority feel that the government do not appreciate its minorities' rights or feelings. And when you feel that you're born in a country, but your prime minister really do not respect your roots and your history, you feel alienated.
Denmark's relationship with the Muslim world worsened when in 2005 a Danish newspaper published the controversial cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad. The sense of outrage persists. In January this year, a Somali man was charged with the attempted murder of the cartoonist Kurt Vestergaard. The global economic downturn could further increase polarization and radicalization.
Radicalism usually come out of either economic crisis or social political crisis. And we've seen in the 30s, the formation of Nazism was very much related to economy. Because through the history, we've seen how Europe does not tolerate minorities when it's poor Europe. And we are now in a serious economical situation, and I think it is scary.
Where do we go from here, my baby? Underground or crossover, maybe?
Amid the fears of radicalism, young men like Zaki and Isam are seeking to bridge the growing divide. Zaki is an up-and-coming grassroots rapper, and Isam Bashiri is a member of the award-winning trio Outlandish. Each has his own unique experience of life in Denmark.
When it comes to racism and Islamophobia and stuff like that, being born and raised in Denmark, I really haven't, met that.
Whenever you read the newspapers, we are not, mentioned as Danish people. I mean, like, whenever they have, like, for instance, students in NORREBRO, they're always talking about, foreigners, like immigrants. If we win, like, the Olympics or something, then they're gonna be like, yeah, he's a Dane. When we run around shooting, then it's like integrational problems. It's not social problems. If you're constantly reminded that you're worthless, I mean, as a human being and as a social group, that's how you're gonna behave, unless somebody inspires you to behave different.
When I talk to some of the youth, I'll tell them to turn off the TV. Don't read the papers, man. Just focus on your education, focus on whatever you do, and master that.
For Zaki, Isam, and artists like them, music is a form of social protest, a means of addressing the issues of the day.
Hip-hop spoke to us because it was also, it was like it was like music for the minorities. Because of this rebellious nature and the content of the lyrics, it would also be like not just like "Baby, I love you," but also like talking about some of the social issues we're dealing with.
They've been staging invasions, Illuminatis and Masons, waiting patiently while kept us locked in these cages. It takes a nation, 1 million to solve the problem they're facing. Maybe all the fear is just fear retaliation.
Because they keep on saying we're the aggressors, but who's invading who, man?